Here's what's coming up on your horizon. Oklahoma's educational outcomes are often criticized. Low test scores, high dropout rates, and failing schools are all concerns. But what if we are so focused on what is going wrong, we ignore what's going on right? Today, our focus is going to be on some educational success stories here in the state. Our Andy Barth looks at some of the challenges facing schools and talks to a broad spectrum of people on possible solutions. We'll show you a grassroots program designed to increase the public's involvement in how we run our schools. And our Courtney May takes us to Metro Career Academy to visit their dropout recovery program. Stay with us for Oklahoma Horizon.
Oklahoma Horizon is made possible by the Oklahoma Department of Career and Technology Education.
Oklahoma's investment in Career Tech provides more than nationally recognized technology education and training. It produces solid financial returns for the state's economic future. Oklahoma Career Tech, elevating our economy.
And the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry, helping good people grow good things. And now, from the Career Tech Studios in Stillwater, here's your host, Rob McClendon.
Hello everyone, thanks for joining us here on Horizon. Well, public education is the bedrock of our democracy. Yet, if you read the headlines, public education is failing in the state. And while many of the struggles are certainly complex, others are not. They just take work, money, and innovation. Our Andy Barth visited with both educators and stakeholders on the front lines of education reform and joins me now.
Well, Rob, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce released its annual Leaders and Laggards report on education for each state, and Oklahoma received an overall grade of F. It's not the first time the educational outcomes in the state have been under scrutiny, yet a growing number of educators and parents say our focus on top-down education reform is misplaced.
It's a constant controversy. K-12 education. And with Oklahoma standards falling behind nationally, many are calling for change.
A quality teacher in every classroom is vital to improving public education. We've got a good system in Oklahoma right now, but obviously when you look at the rankings, it's clear that we can do better.
Oklahoma currently ranks 41st in the nation when it comes to student performance and 44th when it comes to educational funding. Statistics that Oklahoma Education Association's Amanda Ewing says must change.
Oklahoma teachers have not had an across the state pay raise since 2006, and our teachers can go to any other state, any other bordering state, and make more money. If we prioritize education, if it's the most important to us in Oklahoma, and if we want Oklahoma teachers to be the best and the brightest, then we've got to make that clear by compensating them as such.
An issue that Tulsa School Superintendent Keith Ballard is passionate about.
I think it's just plain wrong not to be paying teachers an adequate wage. If we were paying a better wage to teachers, then we would not have the shortage that we have.
Yet, despite poor pay, Jinx Middle School principal Rob Miller says his teachers are dedicated to offering the best education possible for their students.
Every school that I've worked in is filled with hardworking professionals. We don't have teachers who come to school and say, and I just want to slide by. We've got teachers that are committed and passionate about their jobs, who love kids, who want to see kids be successful.
Yet many teachers are frustrated by recent moves away from curriculum-based lessons to teaching to the test.
3, you're going into 32.
Because we're so focused on getting kids ready for tests, we sometimes lose focus on we're here to create lifelong learners. And in my mind, what we need to do is be focusing on the skills that are necessary. Content knowledge is great. We need that as a base because kids can't think critically if they don't have a base of knowledge. However, we've got to focus more on the critical thinking, the problem solving, the teamwork, the entrepreneurial skills.
And for restaurant owner Sean Cummings, those skills are lacking in today's public education system.
They come to me relatively no skills, can't fill out an application, don't bring a pen to an application, can't interview, no interview skills. And I'm just curious From a school perspective, that's half your client base. What are we teaching half our client base?
Well, now aside from Oklahoma ranking in the bottom portion of the nation when it comes to education, the U.S. educational system is constantly in the news for ranking low on a global scale. But the question is, what factors are considered when comparing education in different nations? Asian countries are always considered to have top student performance, but when presenting their test scores for their students, they aren't always what they seem. China tests the top 12 provinces out of 22. They then send in the scores from only the top 3 performing provinces. Certainly different tactics than here in the U.S.
We educate every single child. And if you go to some countries like China, that's not the case. You know, there is a separation at different levels along that trajectory, and those students who no longer meet standards are typically out of school by 8th or 9th grade. Students with special needs were not educated hardly at all.
And here at Jenks Public Schools, classrooms are a crosscut of society, from those who struggle to those who excel.
Like a brain surgeon? Yes. That's a good job. I've got students here at the middle school who will leave here at the end of the year with 7 and 8 high school credits, who finished 3 years of high school math, who are up through Algebra 2, some are up through Trig and Pre-Calc, who have finished 3 years of a world language already, and finished 1.5 years or 2 years of high school science.
Evidence that Oklahoma students are not underperforming, yet our approach to education is. Ewing says it's time for lawmakers to make education their priority.
Oklahoma can afford it. If we consider education our top priority, then we've got to invest in it as such, and you know, we can absolutely afford to do so, and we just need to see that, we need to see our elected officials say so and make pass the law to do it.
Which is why Representative Joe Dorman convened an interim study to explore funding options for education.
Oklahoma has not kept up with the rest of the nation. We're 44th right now in per pupil allocations, and we're at the bottom when it comes to keeping up since 2008 with the recession. We must do a better job of providing the dollars in the classroom so teachers will have the resources. We must provide a teacher pay raise, and we must provide the opportunities for these students to achieve their highest potential.
We're in a kid business. We're here to support kids, and that's what brings the passion. That's why I love being a middle school principal.
What are you looking at now?
Now Representative Dorman says that education funding is a battle that's waged every year at the Capitol, and says he doesn't understand why there's resistance to adequate funding when Oklahoma is one of the lowest per pupil funding states in the country.
So exactly what is the state allocating for education?
Well, Rob, legislators appropriated $1.8 billion for the 2014-2015 school year, but in 2009, right after the recession hit, they appropriated more than $2 billion for education.
All right, thanks so much, Andy.
You're welcome, Rob.
Now, some of the video you've been watching came from an Oklahoma Watch forum that we attended. Now, they are holding these education forums around the state, and in the coming weeks, we will bring you an interview we did with Oklahoma City's new superintendent, Rob New. Now, when we return, an initiative to bring communities back into the classroom.
You're watching Oklahoma Horizon, featuring some of the good things that are happening in the great state of Oklahoma.
Well, over the last couple of months, 2 educational groups rolled out a project they believe will improve public education. It's called For the People, and it's designed to increase community involvement in the classroom. Joining me now is Joe Sahino, Superintendent of Norman Public Schools, and Sean Heim, the Executive Director of the Oklahoma State School Board Association. Well, gentlemen, first of all, thank you for being here. But before we begin, I want to show the video that you brought with you.
It's great.
When you talk about education.
When you talk about education.
When you talk about education.
You're talking about me.
You're talking about me.
You are talking about me.
You are talking about me. You're talking about me.
When you talk about public education.
You're not talking about a faceless institution.
I am the face of education. I am the face of education.
I am the face of education.
I am the face of education.
I may not understand educational budgets or the politics behind decisions
or the impact of testing,
but the result will shape my education.
It will shape if I love to learn, if I will follow my dreams.
I may not understand the conversations you have about education,
but I feel the outcome.
I can't make these decisions.
I can't make these decisions.
But you can.
You can.
You can.
Will you join the conversation about my future?
walk into most schools in Oklahoma and you will find something positive happening every day.
Public education is the foundation for everything that we do in this country. And it's built on that foundation of public education and public education for all.
Nobody suffers from you being smart. Nobody suffers from you having an education. We all benefit from you being a productive member of society. Here recently, education has become less focused on the individual and more the numbers behind that individual.
I think in a lot of ways we're teaching kids to go pick that right answer out of A, B, C, or D. It's definitely more information given to the students. They're definitely exposed to more type of curriculum, but there's less of critical thinking and decision making.
We've got to look at a way to evaluate a child from the beginning and how we move that child forward.
We're getting away from what the problem is, and that's helping kids be the best they can be. We've got to look at the kids first, and we've got to listen to them, because they will tell you if they're being successful. It just all comes down to we've got to start working together. I mean, I don't think it's a lost cause. We can't let it be a lost cause.
The Visioning Project is really a jumping off point. It's a conversation starter. Hopefully it will bring all the partners to the table to talk about public education and what we can do to improve it.
Public education has become this adversarial conversation, when in truth, when you sit down individually, and I have with all these different stakeholders, there's a commonality in what our goals are. And I think the Visioning Project will give us that opportunity to define common goals and bring us forward together as stakeholders.
I'm not sure that everyone trusts educators to do what's right for children. That's why I was so excited about this project. When people see the success that we're having, I would hope that that then causes our communities to trust us, because every community is different. But the bottom line is every district needs to figure out together what's good for their kids, examine the project and figure out where they want to begin, and then get their educators and their community involved, because we can't be successful if we don't have our community and our businesses and our patrons involved with us in it. We can't do it alone.
The school can't exist without the community, and the community needs to be involved with the school.
We've got to make the connection that each one of those students is important.
It has to start with us. We have to be what we want. So if we want them to be successful, we want them to take their education seriously, then we have to take it seriously, and we have to take our commitment to that solution seriously. The role that you play, however small it may be to you, it might be a big role in the life of a kid.
I have dreams for the future.
I have dreams for the future.
I have dreams for the future.
These dreams require education.
They require an education that won't fail me.
The stakes are high.
The stakes are high.
From teachers to administrators,
to school board members,
to parents,
to the community.
You all have a role to play.
Let your voice be heard.
Let your voice be heard.
Shape the face of education.
Shape the face of education.
Say yes. Say yes. Be part of the conversation. Say yes.
Say yes.
Do whatever it takes to build up the students and teachers in my school.
In my school.
In mine.
In mine.
Say yes.
Say yes.
Embrace a new vision for public education. That's for all people. For all children. For me.
For me.
For me.
For me.
For me.
For me. For me.
For me.
Well, first of all, what a great moving video for anyone that cares about public education. Let me ask you both, why this project?
I think there's a lot of reasons why this project. First of all, education, particularly public education, in my view, is the foundation for everything that we do in this state and across the country. And our time and investment in public education is certainly worth this effort and this effort going forward. But maybe specifically, Sean might want to talk a little bit about where we got started and
Well, it really started with the whole reform movement. As educational leaders, we saw where we left a void in leadership. We ran schools, we were principals, we were teachers, and other entities came in and really led the discussion for reforming and improving public schools. And as that happened, we saw most of their plans, their slogans, buzzwords, practices really didn't fit what works best with children. So we decided to bring educational leaders together, talk about transformational practices that work in the classroom, and then bring those partners in to help us to be a part of it, from parents, community members, politicians, local chambers of commerce, to really see if we could move the needle on our public schools.
So is it fair to say that education in general recognizes that there's a need for change, but maybe not the type of reforms that have been pushed?
I think that's exactly right. First of all, as a school superintendent, my colleagues, teachers that I work with, principals that I work with, all believe that we could always get better and that we have to invest our time and effort in getting better. That's part of the profession. What we believe in as part of this project is, though, that the change needs to be transformational, not just reform, and that today's reform movement, in our view, in many of our views, is really about changes that will maybe focus on some kids and give some kids opportunities in certain ways. But it really makes no systemic change in the institution of public education. And our focus is systemic change in the institution that will really affect and impact every student in our schools across the state. And that's what really our change is about.
The point is, public education is for all children. So we don't want to just find pockets of change or change for specific groups of students. We want to try to have transformational practices Joe talked about and share that across the state of Oklahoma so that schools in Idabel can learn what's working in Altus and schools in Miami can learn what's working in Gotebo, so we can bring it up together and help all of our schools improve.
So how are you using this For the People project to elicit that change?
Well, we're starting with our groups, the School Boards Association. We have 16 regional meetings across the state. We're now in the process of meeting with them, rolling it out, sharing the concept. Our hope is they take it back to their community. They have strategic planning sessions in their community. They look at the pieces of the recommendations that deal with school policy, practices, procedures, compare that to what they're doing, find those things they think work in their schools, work on that implementation with their community. As they find promising practices, share those so we can grow the document, grow the experience across the state. Some of the legislative pieces, big picture pieces, we'll be working with our board members, but also legislative leaders to talk to them about a positive solutions-based approach. Joe talks about this a lot, and we've talked about this from the beginning. For some time now, we've been known as the group or organizations of no. On education reform, no on A through F, no on certain testing, no on third grade retention. Well, what are we for? So this was about telling them what we're for, having solutions to those issues, talking about what really works for children. If we want to talk about literacy for early elementary students, who knows better than educational leaders? We should have a solution, take it to our legislators and say, this will work. This is really what we want to do to have accountability for our schools. We need accountability for our schools. We believe in it as much as anyone, but we want an accountability system that truly gives a picture of what's happening in the local school. Are we helping students grow from grade to grade? You know, what's happening in the school so parents and community members know, not a system that may give an A or through F that is 9 months after the assessment took place and way too late for that data to really help schools make data-driven decisions.
Joe, Sean, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
Right. Now, we'll continue this conversation on our website. Just go to okhorizon.com and look for us under our value-added section.
Want to share something you've seen here today? Well, all of our episodes are streaming on our YouTube channel at Oklahoma Horizon TV. Or you can subscribe to our weekly free podcasts on iTunes.
Well, the current national high school graduation rate is around 80%. But in urban areas, graduation rates can fall all the way to 50%. Now, the issues surrounding high school dropouts is exceedingly complex, but one of the solutions is rather simple. Joining me now is our Courtney May.
Educators have long known that one-on-one hands-on learning is one of the most effective ways to teach people anything. And it is that approach that has helped the Dropout Recovery Program at Metro Tech's Career Academy become such a success story.
Crystal Richards hasn't always enjoyed going to school. But here at Metro Career Academy, she's cutting out the past and growing a new life.
Here it's like you walk into school, your teachers know if you're missing, they want to know why. They really care about you and like really in your business, so if anything's wrong, they know. so they're really easy to talk to.
Horticulture instructor Jonna K. Squires says the success the program has is credited to the positive atmosphere.
I think one of the reasons why this program is so successful is that the kids get immediately involved in it. Plants don't judge you. It's something they see results very quickly. The results are very positive, and so for these students, a lot of times they haven't had that positive feedback or that positive energy from it. And it's something that typically, whether you give a flower arrangement or you grow a plant, you're going to make someone else's day, or at least it does better your day. And so I think the students immediately get a satisfaction and a positive reinforcement that they desperately need. And I think it reminds them, whether it's a therapy or it's just a coping mechanism, or it's just a way to say, you know, it's okay, and we're going to give you some groundwork and framework for launching you into a new day or new opportunities.
Student Drake Mason says he was introduced to the horticulture program by chance, but he stays by choice.
I sat in the class and was shadowing, and actually the very first day when I was just sitting in there, thought I was just gonna get a feel of the class and just watch. No, Miss Squires said, "Here, you do this." I was like, "Wait, what?" She said, "Yeah, when you come in here, you work, so you gotta do this project." I was like, "Hold on, I don't know what the project is." Somewhere along the lines, I got in horticulture, and I've been in here ever since and never left.
At Metro Career Academy, the opportunities are equal for everyone. And Squires says a student's past never defines their future.
The students, as they come into us, I think they are looking for opportunities. They don't want to be judged on past mistakes. And so I think it's really important as teachers and as students that we have in class that remind them that every day is a new day, and that the skills and the things that we're trying to provide them is going to create new opportunities. And so I think part of the advantage of what we offer here at Metro Career Academy and MCA is that they are assigned to an occupational program, such as horticulture, and we're saying either we're going to help you get college credit, or we're going to help to at least launch you into personal positive skill set that's going to help you get a job.
And not only is Squires a positive influence as a teacher, she also plays an influential role in her students' lives beyond the classroom.
I see her as another mom, because like even outside of school, she's really helpful. She cares about your life and what's going on, so she's always there to listen. So she's a really amazing teacher.
And Squires says her teaching goes beyond growing plants. It emphasizes growing as a person.
It's more about their personal growth. Where did they come from? What did they obtain? And how happy are they? And what are they doing that's positive and and contributing to society? So I feel lucky and blessed at the same time, because the students I'm seeing have different career opportunities, and they are finding a way to make it happen. And maybe it's a little different path than they intended originally, but they're still getting there. I'm extremely proud of what they've done.
And Mason says it is Squires who is planting the seeds of success in her students by helping them realize giving up is no longer an option.
Don't give up. I mean, it's very easy to give up, but it's harder to stay on track and keep going and continue to be the person that you need to be and do what you need to do. Like, anybody can be a high school dropout, but it's a lot harder for you to be a high school graduate, and you get more being a high school graduate. So I'd rather be a graduate than be a dropout. That's why I came to MCA.
Now, that segment was shot late last spring, and we are happy to tell you that both Crystal Richards and Drake Mason are enrolled in college this fall.
So exactly how does the MCA program work?
Well, MCA serves students who are 15 years and older who are facing adverse barriers when it comes to receiving a high school diploma or career training. And one of the greatest things about MCA is not only are they offering support for these students, but also to their families as well.
You know, and that is critical to education. Now, if someone is seeing this, how can they get involved if they'd like to help out?
MCA offers a mentorship program which allows these students to connect with caring individuals, and it's also a community community support program that allows organizations and businesses to help out as well.
And not coincidentally, there was a young lady on a studio tour just a couple of weeks ago that was a product of that program, and she was absolutely beaming about how much it changed her life. Thank you so much, Courtney.
You're welcome, Rob.
Now, in 2 weeks, we'll show you how some Metro Tech students are helping their community while also learning some valuable lessons about the food we put on our plate. Next time on Oklahoma Horizon, energy, earthquakes, and our economy.
We've never pumped this hard and this long into an injection well system. So we have some things we can go off of, but we've not done this experiment before to say absolutely what the risks look like.
Oklahoma's energy industry and you on Oklahoma Show Over the Heartland, Oklahoma Horizon. Well, we are out of time. I'm Rob McClendon. Thanks for watching. See you back here next week.